The massive alien ship floated in the darkness of space like a glowing city. Ambassador Zethkari stood at the observation deck, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the stars. The ship was called Eternal Harmony, and it was bigger than most human cities. Inside its metal walls, 12 different alien races worked together as the Galactic Council. Zethkari was tall and thin, with blue skin that sparkled under the ship's lights. His people, the Altarians, had been part of the Council for over 3,000 years. Today felt different, though. Today they were going to meet humans for the first time. A soft chime filled the air. Zethkari turned as a smaller alien walked into the room. This was Vexthanis, the Council's military coordinator. He had gray skin and 6 legs that clicked on the metal floor as he moved. "The human transmission is ready," Vexthanis said in his clicking voice. "They want to talk." Zethkari nodded. For 50 years, the Council had watched Earth from far away. They saw humans fighting wars, building cities, and slowly learning to travel between planets. Most Council members thought humans were just another young species that needed help and protection. "What do we know about their ship?" Zethkari asked. Vexthanis looked at a small device in his clawed hands. One vessel. Small. Basic design. Nothing special about it. "They call it the UES Defiance." The 2 aliens walked through the ship's wide hallways. Other Council members passed by, some walking, some floating, some sliding on the smooth floors. The Galactic Council was home to many strange and wonderful beings, but they all shared one thing. They all thought they were much more advanced than humans. They entered a large room filled with screens and control panels. Admiral Mordoon was already there, a massive creature with thick red skin and tiny black eyes. He commanded the Council's military forces and did not look happy. "Why are we wasting time with these primitives?" Mordoon growled. His voice was deep and rough like rocks grinding together. "They barely know how to leave their own star system." Zethkari remained calm. All species deserve a chance to join the Council, even young ones. "Young and weak," Mordoon replied. "They will need our protection for centuries. What can they possibly offer us?" Before anyone could answer, the main screen lit up. A human face appeared, and Zethkari studied it carefully. The human had short brown hair and serious eyes. He wore a blue uniform with strange symbols on it. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Defiance," the human said. His voice was clear and strong. "We come in peace, seeking friendship with the Galactic Council." Zethkari stepped forward. "Welcome, Captain Morrison. I am Ambassador Zethkari. We have watched your species for many years. Today begins a new chapter for both our peoples." Captain Morrison smiled. Behind him, Zethkari could see other humans working at control stations. One was a woman with long black hair who seemed to be studying star charts. Another was an older man with gray hair who was looking directly at the screen with curious eyes. "Thank you, Ambassador," Morrison said. "We are honored by this meeting. We hope to learn much from the Council and perhaps contribute to your great work." Admiral Mordoon made a sound like snorting. Contribute? What could humans possibly contribute to a civilization that had existed for millions of years? "We have prepared a standard integration package for your species," Vexthanis said, reading from his device. "Full Council protection, access to basic technologies, and guidance for your development. In return, we ask only for loyalty and small contributions to Council resources." Captain Morrison was quiet for a moment. The woman with black hair leaned over and whispered something to him. Morrison nodded and looked back at the screen. "We appreciate your generous offer," Morrison said. "However, we would like to propose something different. Instead of accepting protection, We would like to demonstrate what humanity can contribute to the Council's defense. The room went very quiet. Sethkari's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. Vex Thanis dropped his device. Admiral Mordoon's mouth fell open, showing his sharp teeth. Defense? Mordoon said slowly. You want to help defend the Council? That's correct, Morrison replied. We believe humanity has valuable military experience and capabilities that could benefit all Council members. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. This was not how first contact usually went. New species were supposed to be grateful for protection, not offer to provide it themselves. Sethkari recovered first. Captain Morrison, your confidence is admirable. However, you must understand that Council military operations are very advanced. We have weapons and ships that are far beyond anything your species has encountered. We understand, Morrison said. That's why we would like the opportunity to show you what we can do. A demonstration, if you will. Admiral Mordoon began to laugh. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the walls. A demonstration? You want to show us your little ships and projectile weapons? The woman with black hair stepped into view. I am Commander Lisa Torres, she said. Captain Morrison is serious about this demonstration. We believe it would be educational for both our peoples. Educational, Vex Thanis repeated, picking up his device. Yes, I suppose it would be interesting to see what humans consider military technology. An older human with gray hair also appeared on screen. Dr. Ben Carter, xenobiologist, he introduced himself. We've studied your public communications about military doctrine. We think you might find human approaches ... different. Admiral Mordoon was still chuckling. Different? Child, we have seen every type of warfare in the galaxy. Energy weapons, gravity bombs, dimensional shields, psychic attacks. What could possibly be different about human warfare? Captain Morrison exchanged glances with his crew. Perhaps that's something better shown than explained. Sethkari found himself becoming curious despite his better judgment. The humans seemed very confident for such a primitive species. Either they were foolishly naive, or they knew something the Council did not. Very well, Sethkari said. We can arrange a small demonstration. Nothing too elaborate, you understand. Just a simple display of your capabilities. Where would this take place? Commander Torres asked. Vex Thanis consulted his device. The Kepler 442 system has a suitable asteroid field. Uninhabited, safe for weapons testing. We could meet there in 3 weeks. Perfect, Morrison said. We'll need to bring some additional ships for a proper demonstration. Additional ships? Admiral Mordoon asked. How many ships does humanity have? Morrison smiled. Enough for a good show. Will a few dozen be acceptable for your observation purposes? The aliens nodded. A few dozen ships was actually quite impressive for such a young species. Most new Council members could barely field 10 vessels. We look forward to seeing your demonstration, Sethkari said. Perhaps you will surprise us. I hope so, Morrison replied. Thank you for this opportunity. We'll see you at Kepler 442. In 3 weeks, the screen went dark. The 3 Council members stood in silence for a moment, each thinking about what had just happened. This should be amusing, Admiral Mordoon said finally. I wonder if their weapons even work in vacuum. Vex Thanis was making notes on his device. I'll prepare a standard assessment team. Nothing too large. We don't want to intimidate them. Sethkari continued staring at the blank screen. Something about Captain Morrison bothered him. The human had seemed too confident, too prepared. Most species were nervous and overwhelmed during first contact. These humans acted like they knew exactly what they were doing. Perhaps we should bring additional observers, Sethkari suggested. Other Council members might be interested in seeing this demonstration. Good idea, Vex Thanis agreed. The Saurians love military displays. The Crystalline Collective would probably enjoy analyzing primitive technology. As the three aliens left the communication room, none of them noticed the small indicator light that showed their conversation had been recorded. Far away, on a ship, that their sensors could not detect. Other humans were already making preparations for the demonstration. The meeting at Kepler 442 was going to be very educational indeed. 3 weeks had passed since the first meeting between humans and the Galactic Council. The asteroid field around Kepler 442 stretched out like a field of floating rocks, some as small as houses and others as large as mountains. This was where the Council would see what humans called military power. Admiral Mordoon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Fang. The ship was massive and painted deep red like dried blood. Around him, his crew worked at their stations, preparing instruments to record the human demonstration. Mordoon expected this to be a short and simple show. "How many council ships are here?" asked his second-in-command, a younger officer with the same red skin but smaller tusks. Mordoon looked at the tactical display. 12 observation vessels. Representatives from 6 different species. The Saurians wanted to see primitive combat. The Crystalline Collective wants to study human technology. Everyone else is just curious. On another council ship, the Nixari. Science vessel Bright Analysis. Dr. Kethmer was calibrating his sensors. The Nixari were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology. Their ships could analyze any weapon or shield system within seconds. "Are you really expecting to learn anything new?" asked his assistant, a young Nexari female with silver skin that glowed softly in the ship's lights. Dr. Kethmer adjusted a control panel with his long, thin fingers. "Probably not. But sometimes primitive species develop interesting solutions to basic problems. It might be educational." Far away from the alien ships, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UE Defiance. The human ship looked small and simple compared to the elegant council vessels. Its gray metal hull was covered with sensors and weapon systems that seemed rough and basic. Commander Lisa Torres stood beside him, studying a tactical display that showed the positions of all the council ships. "They're keeping their distance," she observed. "Probably don't want to get too close to our primitive weapons." Dr. Ben Carter was at another station, monitoring the alien communications. "They're treating this like a scientific experiment. Some of them are actually taking bets on how long our demonstration will last." Morrison smiled slightly. "How long do they think it will take?" "Most estimates are between 10 and 30 minutes, Carter replied. "They expect us to fire some missiles, maybe show off our energy weapons, and then thank them for their time." Behind them, the elevator doors opened and a new figure stepped onto the bridge. This was Colonel Matt Turner, a serious man with gray hair and old scars on his hands. He wore a different uniform than the others, one marked with symbols that meant special operations. "The additional assets are in position," Turner reported quietly. "All units are standing by for your signal." Torres looked confused. "Additional assets? I thought we were just bringing the Defiance and a few escort ships." Morrison turned to face his crew. "I haven't told you everything about this demonstration. Command decided that if we're going to show the Council what humanity can do, we should really show them." Dr. Carter stopped working and stared at the captain. "What exactly are we going to show them?" Before Morrison could answer, their communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship. Admiral Mordoon wants to begin the demonstration." Morrison nodded. "Put him on screen." The main viewer flickered to life, showing the massive red alien on his bridge. Behind him, other council officers could be seen watching with casual interest. "Captain Morrison," Mordoon's deep voice filled the bridge. We are ready to observe your demonstration. Please proceed with your display. Thank you, Admiral, Morrison replied. Before we begin, I need to clarify something. What you've seen so far is just our diplomatic escort. For a proper demonstration of human military capabilities, we'll need to bring in additional units. Mordoon looked amused. Additional units? How many ships are we talking about, Captain? Morrison paused for a moment, as if doing calculations in his head. For a basic demonstration of our standard deployment doctrine, we'll need approximately 200 vessels. The alien bridge went completely silent. Mordoon's small black eyes grew wider. Behind him, other council officers stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. 200? Mordoon repeated slowly. Did you say 200 ships? That's correct, Morrison said calmly. Human military operations typically involve large-scale coordination between multiple fleet elements. A single ship demonstration wouldn't accurately represent our capabilities. On the Nexari science vessel, Dr. Kethmer nearly dropped his instruments. Did the human just say 200 ships? He asked his assistant. I think so, she replied, her silver skin now glowing brighter with excitement. But that's impossible. New species never have more than 50 ships total. Back on the Council flagship, Mordoon was trying to process this information. 200 ships was more than many established Council members could field. It seemed impossible that these primitive humans could have assembled such a fleet. Captain Morrison, Mordoon said carefully, are you certain about these numbers? 200 functional warships? Oh, these aren't our total fleet strength, Morrison replied casually. These are just the units we have available in nearby systems for training exercises. We didn't want to pull ships away from more important duties just for a demonstration. The council officers exchanged worried glances. If 200 ships were just what they had available for training, how many ships did humanity actually possess? Commander Torres was also staring at Morrison in shock. She had expected to demonstrate with maybe a dozen ships, not 200. Captain, she whispered, where are all these ships coming from? Morrison turned to address his crew, but kept his voice loud enough for the alien listeners to hear. The 10th Fleet has been conducting exercises in the Tau Ceti system. The 15th Fleet finished maneuvers near Wolf 359 last week. And Admiral Brooks is bringing the 3rd Heavy Battle Group from the Sol system. Dr. Carter's mouth fell open. Admiral Brooks? She's bringing the 3rd Heavy? Along with General Kelly's rapid response units, Morrison added. We want to show the Council the full range of human military doctrine. On his ship, Admiral Mordoon was frantically signaling his communications officer. Get me a direct link to the Council headquarters immediately, he hissed. Priority 1 emergency channel. The communications officer, a nervous alien with purple skin, worked quickly at his controls. Channel open, Admiral. This is Mordoon, the Admiral said into his communicator. We may have seriously underestimated the human military. They claim to have hundreds of ships available for this demonstration. The reply came from Ambassador Zethkari, who is still aboard the Eternal Harmony. Hundreds? Are you certain? Our intelligence estimates suggested they had perhaps 30 ships total. Either they're lying, or our intelligence was very wrong, Mordoon replied. What are your orders? There was a long pause before Zethkari responded. Proceed with the demonstration. We need to know what we're dealing with. Back on the Defiance, Morrison was speaking into his own communicator. All units, this is Morrison. Operation First Impression is authorized. Begin Phase 1 deployment. Turner stepped forward and activated a device that looked like a simple communication panel. Admiral Brooks, this is Colonel Turner. The Council is ready for our demonstration. Bring them in. The response came immediately in a crisp female voice. Understood, Colonel. All fleet elements are moving to demonstration positions. ETA 15 minutes. Dr. Carter was monitoring the alien communications, and what he heard made him smile. The council ships were suddenly very busy, their crews scrambling to recalibrate sensors and prepare for something much larger than they had expected. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "they're starting to panic. The Saurian ships are powering up their weapon systems." Morrison nodded. "Expected. They're military-minded. When someone shows up with more ships than anticipated, they get nervous." On. The crystalline collective vessel, a being made of living crystal, was frantically adjusting scanning equipment. The crystalline beings communicated through light patterns that flashed across their transparent bodies. "This changes everything," the patterns of light seemed to say. "If humans have this many ships, why did they approach the council as supplicants? What are they really planning?" Admiral Mordoon was asking himself the same question. He had assumed the humans were a weak species seeking protection. But species with hundreds of warships didn't usually need protection from anyone. "Admiral," his tactical officer called out, "I'm detecting energy signatures approaching the system. Multiple vectors, massive displacement readings." Mordoon turned to his screens. "How many ships?" The tactical officer worked at his controls, trying to count the approaching vessels. "Sir, the numbers keep changing. I'm reading at least 50 ships, but more keep appearing on sensors." 50 ships arriving every few minutes?" Mordoon asked. "No, sir," the officer replied, his voice shaking slightly. 50 ships arriving every few seconds. On the human ship, Morrison was watching his own tactical display with satisfaction. Years of planning were about to pay off. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not just another primitive species looking for protection. Phase 1 deployment complete, Turner reported. Admiral Brooks reports all heavy units in position. The first human ships began appearing in the Kepler 442 system, like ghosts materializing from nothing. Admiral Mordoon watched his tactical screen as vessel after vessel dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Each new arrival made his heart beat faster. "Count them," he ordered his tactical officer. The young alien's claws clicked rapidly on his controls. 12 destroyers, sir. 4 cruisers. 2 larger vessels that appear to be carriers. Mordoon felt some relief. 18 ships was impressive for a new species, but not terrifying. "Is that all of them?" "Checking, sir," the officer replied. "Yes, all vessels have stopped arriving. 18 total." On the Council science vessel, Dr. Kethmer was scanning the human ships with great interest. The designs were strange, all angles and sharp edges instead of the smooth curves most species preferred. They looked aggressive, like they were built specifically for fighting. "Interesting construction," he told his assistant. "Heavy armor plating, multiple weapon systems. These ships are designed purely for war." His assistant studied the readings. Their energy signatures are unusual too. Very high power output for vessels of this size. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was giving orders on the Defiance Bridge. "Signal all ships to form standard demonstration formation. We'll start with basic maneuvers." Commander Torres coordinated with the other ships. Formation Alpha 7. All vessels acknowledge, can comply. The human fleet moved into position with smooth precision. Each ship knew exactly where to go and how to get there. The Council observers watched as the 18 vessels formed perfect geometric patterns in space. "They're well trained," admitted Admiral Mordoon as second officer. "Better coordination than I expected from primitives." The demonstration began with simple exercises. The human ships showed off their targeting systems by destroying several large asteroids with precise weapon fire. They demonstrated their speed by racing through the asteroid field without hitting anything. They showed their defensive abilities. by blocking simulated attacks with energy shields. Dr. Kethmer recorded everything. Their weapons use kinetic projectiles combined with directed energy. Primitive, but effective. Shield technology is basic but functional. For 30 minutes, the humans performed standard military maneuvers. The council observers took notes and made recordings. Everything seemed normal for a species that had just learned to travel between stars. Then Captain Morrison opened a communication channel to all council ships. "Thank you for your patience with our preliminary demonstration," Morrison said. "Now we would like to show you something more representative of actual human military operations." Admiral Mordoon frowned. "More representative? What do you mean?" Morrison smiled on the screen. Human military doctrine emphasizes combined operations between multiple fleet elements. What you've seen so far is just one small patrol group. For a proper demonstration, we need to show you how we actually fight. "And how is that?" asked Dr. Kethmer, who had opened his own communication link. "Large-scale coordination, Commander." Torres answered. "Humans don't fight with small groups. We fight with entire fleets working together." Morrison nodded. "We would like permission to bring in additional assets to demonstrate our standard deployment patterns." Admiral Mordoon felt confused. Additional assets? How many more ships? Morrison appeared to consult with someone off-screen. "For a basic multi-fleet exercise, we'll need approximately 300 additional vessels." The council communication channels exploded with shocked voices. 300 more ships? Added to the 18 already here, that would be over 300 human warships in one location. 300? Mordoon repeated. "Captain Morrison, are you saying humanity has over 300 warships?" "Oh no," Morrison replied calmly. 300 is just what we need for this demonstration. Our total active fleet strength is classified, but it's considerably larger." On the crystalline collective ship, light patterns flashed frantically across the crystal beings' bodies. They were trying to calculate how many ships a species would need to consider 300 vessels expendable for a simple demonstration. Dr. Kethmer was checking his instruments again. "This is impossible. New species simply don't have this. Many ships, it takes centuries to build such a fleet." His assistant was monitoring human communications. "Doctor, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout this entire region of space. If their claims are accurate, there could be human ships positioned across dozens of star systems." Back on his flagship, Admiral Mordoon was facing a crisis. The simple demonstration he had planned to observe was turning into something much more significant. If humans really had hundreds of warships, they weren't the primitive species everyone thought they were. "Sir," his communications officer called. "Out. I'm receiving priority messages from Council headquarters. They want immediate reports on human fleet strength." Mordoon growled in frustration. "Tell them we don't know yet. The humans keep surprising us." Ambassador Zethkari's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Mordoon, what is your assessment of the situation?" "Complicated," Mordoon replied. "Either the humans are lying about their fleet size, or we have seriously underestimated their capabilities. Could they be bluffing?" Mordoon looked at his tactical screen, which showed the 18 human ships maintaining perfect formation while performing complex maneuvers. "Their crews are too well trained for this to be a bluff. These ships and these people are real." On the human side, Morrison was speaking with his senior officers. "How long until the main fleet arrives?" Colonel Turner checked his communication device. "Admiral Brooks reports 15 minutes until the first wave. General Kelly's forces will arrive shortly after." Dr. Carter was monitoring Council communications. "Captain, they're scared. Half their ships have powered up weapons systems. The other half are trying to scan our vessels to determine our actual capabilities." "And what are they finding?" Morrison asked. Carter smiled. Nothing useful. Our signal masking is working perfectly. They can see our ships, but not much else. Commander, Torres was coordinating with the other human vessels. All ships report ready for Phase 2. Weapon systems armed, shields at full power, sensors active. Morrison opened another channel to the Council fleet. Admiral Mordoon, we're ready to proceed with the full demonstration. Are your observation teams prepared? Mordoon took a deep breath. Captain Morrison, before we continue, I must ask a direct question. How many warships does humanity actually possess? Morrison paused for a moment, as if considering how much to reveal. Admiral, that's classified information. However, I can tell you that what you're about to see represents a small fraction of our active military assets. A small fraction? Dr. Kethmer interrupted. How small? Less than 5%, Morrison replied casually. The Council communication channels went silent. If 300 ships was less than 5% of human military strength, that meant humanity possessed over 6,000 warships. Such numbers were beyond anything most Council species could imagine. Admiral Mordoon felt sick. The Saurian hegemony, one of the most military-focused species in the Council, only had about 800 ships total. If humans really had thousands of vessels, they could challenge any Council member in direct combat. Captain Morrison, Mordoon said carefully, why didn't you mention this military strength during our first meeting? Morrison looked surprised. You didn't ask. Besides, we came seeking friendship, not to threaten anyone. We only agreed to this demonstration because you requested it. Colonel Turner stepped into view on the communication screen. Admiral, if I may add something. Human military doctrine is based on the assumption that any conflict we enter to win decisively. Our fleet sizes reflect that philosophy. Dr. Carter also appeared on screen. We've studied galactic history through your public records. Most species seem to fight with limited forces over long periods. Humans prefer to bring overwhelming strength to end conflicts quickly. Commander Torres joined the conversation. Admiral Mordoon, you asked to see what humans consider military technology. What you're about to witness is how we actually conduct military operations. Morrison nodded. The demonstration fleet is almost in position. Are you ready to proceed? Admiral Mordoon looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for orders. The other Council ships were requesting instructions. This simple demonstration had become the most important military assessment in galactic history. Captain Morrison, Mordoon said slowly, show us what humanity can do. Morrison smiled. Thank you, Admiral. All units, commence operation first. Impression, Phase 2. On human ships throughout the system, officers began implementing orders that had been planned for months. The real demonstration was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The tactical displays on Council. Ships suddenly filled with new contacts as human vessels began appearing everywhere at once. The space around Kepler 442 exploded with light as hundreds of human ships materialized from faster-than-light travel. Admiral Mordoon watched in horror as his tactical screen filled with red dots, each representing a human warship. The 18 vessels he had been observing were suddenly joined by wave after wave of reinforcements. Count them, Mordoon whispered to his tactical officer. The young alien's claws were shaking as he worked his controls. 50 ships, sir. No, wait. 100. No, sir. They keep coming. One count 200 now. Sir, I can't keep up with the count. From every direction, human vessels poured into the system. They came in organized formations, each group arriving exactly where they were supposed to be. There were sleek destroyers that moved like hunting animals. There were massive battleships that looked like floating fortresses. There were carriers that released clouds of smaller fighter craft. On the Nexari science vessel, Dr. Kuthmer was frantically trying to scan the arriving ships. His instruments were overloading from trying to analyze so many vessels at once. "This is impossible," he told his assistant. "No species can coordinate this many ships. The communication delays alone should make this chaos." But the human fleet was not chaotic. Every ship knew exactly where to go. They moved in perfect synchronization, like parts of a giant machine. As more vessels arrived, they slotted into formation without confusion or delay. The largest ship to arrive was massive beyond anything the Council had seen. It was twice the size of Admiral Mordoon's flagship and covered in weapon systems. This was the U.E.'s Indomitable, and standing on its bridge was Admiral Susan Brooks. Admiral Brooks was a tall woman with gray hair and cold blue eyes. She had spent 30 years fighting in humanity's colonial wars, and she looked like someone who had never lost a battle. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who commanded thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. "Admiral Mordoon," Brooks said as her image appeared on the Council communication screens. "I am Admiral Susan Brooks, commanding the 3rd Heavy Battle Group. Captain Morrison requested a demonstration of human fleet operations. We are here to provide that demonstration." Behind Admiral Brooks, the bridge of the Indomitable was busy with activity. Officers worked at stations that controlled weapons capable of destroying planets. Tactical displays showed the positions of every ship in the system, both human and alien. Another massive ship appeared near the Indomitable. This one was even more heavily armed, with weapons pointing in every direction. On its bridge stood General Ryan Kelly, a man with scars on his face and the look of someone who had seen too many battles. "General Kelly commanding the Iron Will," he announced. "Rapid deployment forces are in position and ready for demonstration." Admiral Mordoon felt like his world was ending. These 2 ships alone were larger and more powerful than anything in the Council fleet. And they were just 2 ships among hundreds. "Captain Morrison," Mordoon said, his voice shaking, "how many ships have you brought to this system?" Morrison appeared on screen from his original position aboard the Defiance. "Final count is 412 vessels, Admiral. This represents standard deployment strength for a multi-system operation. 412 ships." Admiral Mordoon tried to process this number. The entire Saurian hegemony military had only 800 ships, and they were spread across 50 star systems. The humans had brought over half that number to one location for a simple demonstration. Dr. Carter stepped into view on Morrison's screen. "Admiral, you should understand that this is not our total available force. These ships were simply the closest units when we sent out the call." "Closest units?" Dr. Kuthmer interrupted from his science vessel. "You mean there are more ships in nearby systems?" Admiral Brooks answered this question. "Doctor, human space covers approximately 200 star systems. Each system maintains defensive fleets. What you see here came from about 12 systems within easy travel distance." General Kelly added his own comment. "The Colonial Marine Corps maintains rapid response fleets in 30 systems. The Home Defense Force protects another 50 systems. The Exploration Command has fleets pushing into new territories." The Council officers were trying to do math in their heads. If humans had fleets in 200 systems, and this demonstration came from only 12 systems, how many ships did humanity actually possess? Commander Torres appeared on Morrison's communication screen. "Perhaps we should begin the actual demonstration now. Our ships are in position." Morrison nodded. "Admiral Mordoon, we're ready to show you standard human fleet operations. Please observe." What happened next left the Council observers speechless. The human fleet began moving as one giant organism. Hundreds of ships changed position simultaneously, creating complex 3-dimensional formations that shifted and flowed like a living thing. "Admiral," Brooks coordinated the heavy ships, which moved into positions for long-range bombardment. General Kelly's forces formed rapid strike groups that could attack multiple targets at once. Carrier groups released thousands of fighter craft that swarmed through the asteroid field like angry insects. "Look at their communication systems," Dr. Kethmer whispered to his assistant. "No delays, no confusion. Every ship responds instantly to orders. How is this possible?" The answer came from Commander Nick Phillips, who appeared on the communication screens from the bridge of a fast attack vessel. Human military communication uses quantum entanglement networks. All ships receive orders simultaneously, regardless of distance. Dr. Kethmer's instruments were detecting energy signatures he had never seen before. "What kind of weapons are those ships carrying?" Captain Rachel Kim answered from her position commanding a massive siege platform. "Kinetic bombardment systems, plasma cannons, gravity bombs, antimatter torpedoes. Standard human military equipment." Standard equipment. The weapons that could destroy planets were considered standard equipment by these humans. Admiral Mordoon watched as the human fleet demonstrated capabilities that challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare. Ships appeared and disappeared, using some kind of stealth technology. Others moved faster than his sensors could track. Some seemed to be sharing shield energy, creating protective barriers around entire formations. "Admiral Brooks," Mordoon called out, "your stealth ships. How long have they been in this system?" Brooks smiled coldly. "Colonel Dan Rodriguez has had stealth reconnaissance units monitoring this demonstration since before your ships arrived. Standard security protocol." Colonel Rodriguez appeared on screen from a ship that Mordoon's sensors still couldn't detect. "We've been watching you for 6 hours, Admiral. Your ships have good sensors, but human stealth technology is very advanced." The revelation that human ships had been watching them undetected sent panic through the Council fleet. If humans could hide ships this well, how many might be positioned throughout Council space without anyone knowing? General Kelly's forces demonstrated rapid deployment by moving from one side of the system to the other in minutes. "Human doctrine emphasizes speed and overwhelming force," Kelly explained. "We don't fight long wars. We fight short, decisive campaigns." Admiral Brooks showed off the power of her heavy battle group by completely destroying a large asteroid with a single coordinated volley. The rock, which had been several kilometers across, simply vanished in a flash of light. That asteroid was similar in size to a heavily defended space station, Brooks noted calmly. Standard elimination time for such targets is approximately 30 seconds. Dr. Carter provided commentary on human tactics. Council records show that most galactic conflicts involve small fleets fighting over months or years. Humans prefer to bring sufficient force to end conflicts in days or hours. The demonstration continued for 2 hours. The Council observers saw logistic ships that could supply entire fleets in deep space. They saw engineering vessels that could build space stations in days. They saw medical ships that could treat wounded from dozens of species. But most terrifying of all, they saw the coordination. 400 ships moving as one. Thousands of fighters operating in perfect synchronization. Communication systems that worked instantly across vast distances. This was not just a large fleet. This was a military machine, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. When the demonstration finally ended, Admiral Mordoon realized that everything had changed. Humanity was not a primitive species seeking Council protection. They were a military superpower that could challenge the entire Galactic Council if they chose to do so. "Captain Morrison," Mordoon said quietly, "we need to talk." The silence that followed the human demonstration lasted for exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Admiral Mordoon counted every second as he stared at his tactical screen. which still showed over 400 human warships positioned throughout the Kepler 442 system. And the chaos began. Every council ship started transmitting at once. Emergency channels crackled with panicked voices in a dozen different languages. Admiral Mordoon's communication officer was frantically trying to sort through the flood of incoming messages. Sir, priority transmission from Council headquarters. They want immediate status reports. Also urgent messages from the Saurian High Command, the Crystalline Collective Central Node, and the Altarian Empire Military Council. Mordoon ignored the messages for now. He was still trying to understand what he had just witnessed. 400 human ships had performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. They moved with coordination that defied everything he knew about fleet operations. On his screen, Captain Morrison appeared calm and patient, as if he had just finished showing off a new type of farming equipment instead of demonstrating the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Mordoon, Morrison said politely, I hope our demonstration was educational. Do you have any questions about human military capabilities? Questions? Mordoon had thousands of questions. How had humanity built such a massive fleet so quickly? How did they coordinate so many ships without communication delays? Where had they learned to fight like this? But the most important question was different. Captain Morrison, what do you want from the Galactic Council? Morrison smiled. The same thing we wanted 3 weeks ago, Admiral. Friendship and cooperation between our peoples. Friendship, Mordoon repeated slowly. Between equals? Yes, Morrison replied. Between equals. The word equals hit Admiral Mordoon like a physical blow. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had been the supreme power in this region of space. No single species could challenge them. But now humanity had demonstrated fleet strength that could match the entire Council combined. Admiral Susan Brooks spoke from her massive flagship. Admiral Mordoon, humanity requests formal reconsideration of our application for Council membership. Our previous application was based on incomplete information about our capabilities. Dr. Ben Carter appeared on the communication screen beside Morrison. We've prepared detailed assessments of human manufacturing capacity, training systems, and strategic doctrines. We believe this information will be valuable for Council defense planning. Council defense planning. Dr. Carter was offering to help defend the Council, not to be defended by them. The complete reversal of the expected relationship made Mordoon's head spin. On the Nexari science vessel, Dr. Kethmer was frantically analyzing the data his sensors had collected during the demonstration. His assistant was helping him process readings that challenged everything they thought they knew about physics and engineering. Their faster-than-light drives are at least 30% more efficient than ours, Dr. Kethmer reported to his ship's captain. Their weapons operate on principles I don't fully understand, and their communication system violates several laws of physics. The captain, an elderly Nixari with pale silver skin, studied the data carefully. Are you saying human technology is more advanced than ours? In many areas, yes, Dr. Kethmer admitted reluctantly. The Nexari prided themselves on being the most technologically advanced species in the Council. The idea that these new humans might be more advanced was deeply disturbing. Meanwhile, on the Council flagship Eternal Harmony, Ambassador Seth Kari was holding an emergency meeting with the other Council representatives. The large conference room was filled with aliens from 12 different species, all talking at once. This changes everything, declared war leader Krex of the Saurian hegemony. If humans have thousands of ships, they could conquer half the galaxy. They showed no aggressive intentions, pointed out harmonic speaker Veltar of the peaceful Melodian Collective. Perhaps they truly want friendship. With that much military power, what they want doesn't matter, Krex replied. They could take what they want by force. Ambassador Zethkari called for order. We need to make decisions based on facts, not fear. What do we actually know about human intentions? The representative from the ancient ethereal collective, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline shell, spoke in a voice like whispering wind. In 1,000,000 years of existence, we have never encountered military coordination at this level. These humans fight as a single organism with thousands of bodies. They offered to help with council defense, reminded the delegate from the Aquatic Depths Commonwealth. Species seeking conquest don't usually offer to help defend their targets. Back in the Kepler 442 system, the human fleet was beginning to withdraw, but they weren't leaving all at once. Instead, they departed in organized waves, each group, jumping to faster-than-light travel in perfect synchronization. General Ryan. Kelly's voice came through the communication system as his ships prepared to leave. Admiral Mordoon, human rapid response forces maintain readiness for deployment anywhere in this galactic region. If the Council ever requires military assistance, we can have fleets in any system within 72 hours. 72 hours. Admiral Mordoon realized that humanity could project military power faster than most. Council species could even send messages between star systems. Admiral Brooks was also preparing to depart with her heavy battle group. Admiral, humanity maintains standing offers of military cooperation with peaceful species. We hope the Council will consider joint training exercises in the future. Joint training exercises. The humans were offering to teach Council forces how to fight more effectively. It was another complete reversal of expectations. Commander Lisa Torres provided the final piece of information that made Admiral Mordoon's blood run cold. Admiral, for planning purposes, you should know that this demonstration involved forces from only the 3rd, 10th, and 15th fleets. Humanity operates 47 numbered fleets, plus specialized units. 47 fleets. If each fleet was similar in size to what he had just witnessed, humanity possessed over 20,000 warships. The number was so large that Mordoon couldn't even imagine what such a force could accomplish. Colonel Nat Turner appeared on screen for his final comment. Admiral, human military doctrine emphasizes peaceful resolution of conflicts when possible. However, we also believe that strong defense capabilities ensure that peace negotiations happen between equals rather than between predators and prey. As the last human ships prepared to leave, Captain Morrison made humanity's final statement. Admiral Mordoon, Ambassador Zethkari, honored representatives of the Galactic Council. Humanity formally requests senior membership in the Council, with full voting rights and participation in all defense planning. In return, we offer significant military assets for the protection of all Council members. Senior membership. Not the junior partnership originally offered, but full membership as equals. With humanity's demonstrated military strength, the Council had little choice but to agree. Dr. Carter added one last piece of information. We've prepared detailed analyses of potential external threats to Council space. Our scouts have identified several aggressive species beyond Council borders that may pose future challenges. We believe combined human and Council forces could address these threats more effectively than either could alone. External threats. The humans had been exploring beyond Council space and found new dangers. They were offering to help protect the Council from enemies the Council didn't even know existed yet. As the human fleet completed its withdrawal, Admiral Mordoon found himself alone with his thoughts. The demonstration was over, but everything had changed. The Galactic Council was no longer the supreme power in this region of space. They were now junior partners with a species that could probably conquer them if they wanted to. But instead of conquest, the humans offered cooperation. Instead of demanding tribute, they offered protection. Instead of treating the council as inferiors, they requested to be treated as equals. Admiral Mordoon opened a communication channel to the remaining council ships. All vessels, this is Admiral Mordoon. Prepare detailed reports on everything you observed, and send a message to council headquarters. What should the message say, sir? Asked his communications officer. Mordoon thought for a moment, then spoke the words that would become famous throughout the galaxy. Tell them this. So this is a human army. We need to talk. The phrase would echo through council chambers for years to come, marking the moment when humanity took its place among the stars, not as supplicants, but as protectors. The galaxy would never be the same.